dramatic and surprising end to the Phil Spector murder trial. We are live in California with all the latest and reaction to the controversial results. The Best Defense continues right now. I'm Jamie Floyd. This is The Best Defense. Well, it's been more than 4.5 years since Lana Clarkson was shot to death inside Music Man Phil Spector's home, his California mansion. And there's still no resolution in that high-profile murder case. After deliberating for more than 44 hours, the jury in Spector's murder trial announced a deadlock.
Mr. President, juror number 10, I understand you have sent me a communication indicating that the jury is unable to reach a unanimous verdict?
Yes.
Is it your belief that there's anything that I can do further that has not yet been done to assist the jurors in any way?
No.
Without, again, indicating which way the jury is leaning, could you give me two numbers, please?
10 and 2.
10 to 2. How many ballots have you taken?
Total or just since?
Total?
6.
6. All right, I want to poll the jurors individually to see if any of you or all of you agree with juror number 10's conclusion. Juror number 1, do you think there's anything more that can be done that would assist you or any other juror in arriving at a verdict in this case?
No.
Juror number 2?
No, Your Honor.
Juror number 3?
No, sir.
Juror number 4?
No, sir.
Juror number 5?
No, Your Honor.
Juror number 6?
No, Your Honor.
Juror number 7?
No, Your Honor.
Juror number 8?
No.
Juror number 9?
No, Your Honor.
Juror number 10?
No, sir.
Juror number 11?
No, Your Honor.
Juror number 12?
No, sir.
Does anybody wish to be heard? Okay.
No.
At this time, I will find that the jury is unable to arrive at a verdict and declare a mistrial in this matter. The jury is discharged. Before I discharge you, there is a final instruction I need to read you, which is read in every case. This is the concluding instruction after the jurors have completed their service. You have now completed your jury service in this case. On behalf of all the judges of the court, please accept my thanks for your time and effort. Now that the case is over, you may choose whether or not to discuss the case and your deliberations with anyone. I remind you that under California law, you must wait at least 90 days before negotiating or agreeing to accept any payment for information about the case. Let me tell you about some of the rules the law puts in place for your convenience and protection. The lawyers in this case, the defendant, or their representatives may now talk to you about the case, including your deliberations. Those discussions must occur at a reasonable time and place and with your consent. Please immediately report to the court any unreasonable contact made without your consent by the lawyers in this case, their representatives, or the defendant. A lawyer, representative, or defendant who violates these rules violates a court order and may be fined. I order that the court's record of personal juror identifying information, including names, addresses, and telephone numbers, be sealed until further order of this court. In the future, if the court is asked to decide whether this information will be released, notice will be sent to any juror whose information is involved. You may oppose the release of this information and ask that any hearing on the release be closed to the public. The court will decide whether and under what conditions any information may be disclosed. What I'm going to ask you to do at this time, there are further things that we need to do. The jury commissioner needs to meet with you. The public information officer of the court is going to meet with you, and I'm just going to thank you personally. The jury room is too small to do that, as is my chambers. I'm going to ask that you all step into the jury room, including the alternates. I'll call you out again in just a few moments. So if you'll all step into the jury room at this time.
Your Honor, it sounded as if you said that the jurors cannot talk to the...
No, they may. If that's what it sounded like, it was wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
You said not. You said not.
You may choose to discuss or not discuss the case with anyone. No, you certainly can, and I believe some of the jurors may wish to meet with you. So what I'm going to do at this time, I'm sorry if I misspoke, and it's possible, and I certainly do apologize for that. Would you all, including the alternates, go ahead and step into the jury room at this time? We'll buzz you out shortly. Just go ahead and step in the jury room.
All right, so there it is, the moment of truth in that courtroom, and now the Spector case has come to resolution. Well, I guess at least for now. Let's go out to Court TV's Beth Karras. She was there. She joins us from the L.A. County Courthouse, as she has every day for the last 5 months. Beth Karras, it'll be nice to have you back in New York. There's one positive ending point on this case. So, Beth, tell us a little bit more about reaction there in Los Angeles. Of course, you've reported that we kind of expected this given where it had been going for the last week or so. But you've had a little more time on the ground. It's starting to sink in that we've had a mistrial. What are folks there saying?
Well, there's disappointment because this was a long trial, hard work on the part of both sides. It's disappointing to many in this community that there isn't a final resolution, but the sentiment in the community, for the most part, is that the jurors who voted 10 for conviction were right. And that although some people could see there being reasonable doubt, they still didn't think he was innocent. I didn't meet many people around here who believed that Lana Clarkson committed suicide. So there's frustration, but people feel that the case should be retried.
And Beth, let's talk a little bit more about the jurors themselves, because obviously it's really all about them in the end. It's about the victim, it's about the defendant, but the jury is the heart and soul of our system, and they did, as we just heard the judge give them permission to speak out after the mistrial was declared.
Yes, that's right. 3 jurors, 3 of the 9 men, we knew them as jurors 9, 10, and 12, spoke to the media after speaking with the attorneys and the judge in the closed courtroom. They came to another floor in the building in an empty courtroom to talk to us. And the jury foreperson, who was juror number 10, was one of the 2 who voted not guilty. He spoke, as well as the other 2 who were convicting jurors, and they enlightened us about the experience of being jurors and the frustrations that they had as well. Here's what they said.
As the foreman of the jury, I just wanted to come and thank the jury for the service they provided. I know this decision, or the inability to reach a decision, is controversial to most, and that even on the jury, there's deep regret that we were unable to reach a unanimous verdict.
It's sad that we couldn't come to a verdict. I mean, it really, in terms of the expense, the family, I'm sure they wanted some closure. I did.
When we saw him on the tape, and when he said, I think I killed somebody, I'm not sure it's my English. That bothered that statement. They highlighted the defense. That bothered some people when he said that.
And from what I've learned in talking to at least one juror, Ricardo Enriquez, juror number 9, at one point it was 11-1 for conviction. The other holdout, besides juror number 10, the foreman, was juror number 1, one of the 3 women, and she kind of flip-flopped, and at one point yesterday was willing to vote guilty. So I think if juror number 10 had changed his vote, then she would have also, and the case would have been over for good, but until an appeal. However, there will be a new trial sometime, probably next spring or summer, and the judge is going to have a status conference next Wednesday with the attorneys, not Spector, to see where they're going and probably set some potential dates.
And everyone in this process, Beth Karras, has had a dress rehearsal. So all of the little missteps that were made, mistaken rulings perhaps, even missing evidence, Beth Karras, all of that can be cleaned up before we get to another case. And did I hear correctly that Phil Spector is already moving on to a new defense team, that he's fired a couple of these folks?
That's the information that I've learned. However, Brad Brunon just showed up at the courthouse and said that he's heard that, but he hasn't been told officially. So I had been told that Rosen and Brunon have been fired because Spector was upset that the jurors, or most of the jurors, believed the prosecution witnesses. Those 2 lawyers were responsible for cross-examining the prior acts women and Adriana D'Souza, but Brad Brunon hasn't been told officially. So
sort of
it's
like
possible that it's only Rosen at this point.
Sort of like hearing that your wife is leaving you, but she hasn't quite fessed up to it yet. All right, let's get to the conversation. Darren Kavanoky and Paul Martin. I think the defense should learn some lessons, whether it's this team or a different team. Do you gentlemen agree? And if so, what are those lessons? Darren, first to you.
Well, certainly the defense has a wonderful opportunity to, as you said, clean up those missteps. I mean, that whole issue with Henry Lee and that piece of forensic matter that did or didn't exist, that's something that can be cleaned up. You know, they'll have the benefit of poring over all of the transcripts to make sure that whatever was effective the first time around can be highlighted even more the second time around, and to avoid anything that didn't work. And, you know, there's two huge unanswered questions that remain. Obviously, the first is whether or not Spector committed this crime. And, of course, the second, and what I was morbidly curious about, is whether or not he's has his own hair or he's wearing a wig. You know, had he been remanded, that question would have been answered, and that's the great unanswered question for me in this case.
Yeah, because we sure learned it about Michael Milken when he went to jail. All right, well, Paul, I imagine you have other concerns than Mr. Spector's hair. I think jury selection is key. It was this time, and it will be next time, and that's the lesson I would learn on both sides of this case. How about you, Paul Martin? What, from a defense point of view, could Phil Spector do differently to maybe swing more, in fact, an entire jury his way?
Well, I got the sense that a lot of the jurors were offended by some of the comments from the defense counsel and some of the way they approached some of the witnesses. So you may want to vary your approach or take a different angle. You know, from listening to that juror, it just reinforces the fact that no matter what the jury instructions are that the judge gives at the end, it's human nature that really helps decide these cases. And you can't change that. And you can fight over this word or that word, but what they brought into the courtroom is exactly what they're going to take into the jury room.
Yeah, and that's the great trial lawyer's gift. Those who recognize, and Paul, you're one of them, those who recognize that it really is all about human nature and common sense, and you've got to give the jury a narrative to work with back there, or they're not coming with you on your version of the case. All right, we're going to take a very quick break, and as we do, we have an update on another case we've been following here on Core TV. As you know, polygamous leader Warren Jeffs was found guilty of accomplice to rape charges. Well, in case you haven't heard, prosecutors have now finally charged the victim's husband, that's Alan Steed, with rape, and we will keep you posted as his case progresses. Stay with us.
You need recess, then recess needs you. So go to rescuingrecess.com now to learn how you can help Cartoon Network raise 1 million volunteer hours for recess and a chance to earn great prizes for your school. It all begins during National Recess Week. Rescuing Recess is another great way for you to get animated. Rescuing Recess is proudly supported by the National Parent Teachers Association, the Hands-On Network, the Corporation for National and Community Service, and NBA Cares.
All right, you're not the person you were before you had rheumatoid arthritis.
So who will you be?
I will be here. I will be strong.
Will you live with the pain and stiffness when your joints could be deteriorating? Or will you weigh the facts and do something?
I face my fears when the night is long.
The pain and joint damage are real. For many people, Humira can help stop them both.
Some people with heart failure should not take Humira. Humira can lower your ability to fight infections.
So tell your doctor right away if you've ever had tuberculosis or hepatitis B or are prone to infection, or if you get an infection. Don't start Humira if you have an infection such as an open sore or the flu.
There have been rare reports of serious and sometimes fatal infections and tuberculosis. Blood disorders, nervous system disorders, serious allergic reactions, and lymphoma have occurred.
Talk with your rheumatologist about Humira. The sooner, the better.
Not there yet, but I will be.
Now I can go, go, go in my hover around. Indoors, outdoors, all over town.
If you're having trouble getting around, you need a Hover-Round power chair. I'm Tom Cruise, inventor of the Hover-Round. I'm a nurse by profession, so I know how important it is to your well-being to have a power chair that gives you independence and freedom. The freedom to get around and enjoy life again.
My Hover-Round has changed everything.
Now I can go, go, go in my hover around.
We say that Hover-Rounds are round for a reason, because unlike chairs with a square front, your Hover-Round allows you to maneuver easily, whether you're indoors or out. That's why I urge you to call us to find out how you can get a Hover-Round in your home.
I feel very safe because of the maneuverability.
HoverRound also gives you freedom from pain. Our custom-fitted seats are designed to give you total support and comfort all day long. They're fully loaded with our exclusive pressure release system, featuring lumbar support, 4-inch thick foam, and Comfort Ride inner springs.
It's a great ride, and it didn't cost me a penny.
9 out of 10 people got their HoverRounds for little or no cost last year. You'll get a team of HoverRound specialists who will help you every step of the way.
I can't recommend it strongly enough. HoverRound will make a big difference in the quality of your life.
Call right now and find out how you can get a HoverRound in your home. There's no cost, no obligation. We'll also send you a free information kit featuring a free video that shows you how HoverRound can help you enjoy an active life again. Plus, you'll get a certificate for a free in-home test drive. You owe it to yourself to discover what thousands of HoverRound owners are singing about.
Call 1-800-567-7143 for your free phone consultation, free information kit, free video, and free test drive certificate. Call 1-800-567-7143 now.
Star Jones is now on Court TV.
And I'm holding nothing back.
If you're thinking about it, she's talking about it.
I've been there, and I know the score.
Star Jones, today at 3.
Live on Court TV.
We're not here as moral judges or anything. I mean, the facts that were presented, in my opinion, made sense to me. And as a result of that, I was able to, with a clear conscience, I can look at myself in the mirror tomorrow, get up and sleep, and know that I did the right thing.
And that's juror number 9. He didn't get much sleep today. We brought him here onto our program. Despite deliberating with his fellow 11 jurors for 12 days, they couldn't reach a verdict in the Phil Spector murder trial. This is The Best Defense. I'm Jamie Floyd, and Beth Karras, who has been on location for the better part of 5 months. Beth, you could have made a movie in all of this time out there near Hollywood. I want to ask you about the piece of evidence that I think most intrigued us in this case, and I think we all agreed throughout on both sides of it that Adriana D'Souza might be the key witness, but it seems to me we were most intrigued by the prior bad acts witnesses, the 5 women, 4 at first and then the 5th, who testified against Phil Spector. How did that play out for these jurors? Obviously, 2 were not persuaded by it, but how significant, based on your conversations with them and what they've said to the press, do you think these 5 women were in the end for the prosecution's case?
Well, actually pretty critical, because the jurors admitted, this is number 9, Ricardo Enriquez speaking, that the science was inconclusive, which is exactly what the ME had concluded. You can't tell who was holding the gun based on the science. You have to look at extrinsic evidence. And some of that extrinsic evidence, the key extrinsic evidence, comes from the 1101B, the prior acts women. Because of what happened to them, it made that scenario in the foyer much more understandable. And the prosecution could put forth a theory of why this woman ended up with a bullet in her head and a purse over her shoulder, sitting in a chair close to the door, and the driver who was to take her home. So those were critical witnesses. Even though he never fired a gun at any of these witnesses in the past, number 9, Ricardo, said that they were distinguishing these other acts to say, look, these women knew him. They may have known better than to fight back. But Lana didn't know him. She just met him. And when she has a gun pointed at her, maybe she slapped his hand away, or maybe she yelled. And the gun is a small gun. She's a big woman with a big smile, and the gun went in her mouth. But juror number 10 seemed to think that he would never open his mouth or 1 or 10 said it, never open my mouth for somebody pointing a gun at me. But she may not have opened her mouth so he could put the gun in it, but was yelling at him, and it just went in her mouth.
But those are
guns against the faces of these women.
Those are the same conversations, interestingly, Beth, that we've all had through this case. How did this happen? What exactly went on? You know, we've even in our office here, Beth, you've been out there, but here acted it out to see if we could figure out how that gun got deep down in her throat. And you and I talked about it with our producers out there. It's something that I think we may never completely know the answer to, because one person is dead and the other person's the defendant in the case. And what we've been doing, Beth, is bringing back, we have Darren Kavanoki, and bringing back some of our friends who've watched the case with us throughout to get their reaction to what's happened out in Los Angeles, a deadlock jury and a mistrial in the Phil Spector case. And to that end, we are so pleased now to be joined by my new friend, Lala Brooks. And you'll know by now that Lala joined the girl group, the Crystals, when she was just 13 and worked with Phil Spector, and then went on to perform big hits like the Do Run Run and Then He Kissed Me. And she's been performing to sold-out crowds here at the Cutting Room. The next time, I think you said, is December 14th. First, Lala, you've been here with us for the prior bad acts witnesses, for the limo driver, for all of the science. What's your reaction to this 10-2 deadlock in the Phil Spector case?
It was shocking to me, you know, because when I listened to all the women and I listened to the gentleman saying that the limo driver, you know, so many, I was shocked. So many things, you know, but...
So you thought there would not only be a result, but you thought you knew what the result would be. You thought they would convict.
Yeah, I thought there would be results, you know. I mean, I thought... I couldn't say that I wanted something to happen to him, you know, Phil, because I wouldn't want anything to happen to anyone when they're innocent. But for all the evidence, and as I said, that when we were younger, he used to have a holster with him with a gun, so it wasn't unusual for him to have a gun, and everyone has said that. But I think that it was like an accident waiting to happen.
Now, I noticed that you mentioned those 5 women first when I asked you your reaction. You said despite those 5 women, and now you say accident waiting to happen. So why don't we take a listen? We're not going to listen to all their testimony because this would be days and days, but we're going to take a listen to a little bit of what the jury must have been talking about back in that jury room. These are the 5 women who say they were threatened by Phil Spector at gunpoint.
He took his right hand that was holding the revolver and smacked me in the side of the head and said, "I told you to get the F back in the house."
He had a gun to my face, a pistol of some sort. I wouldn't look at it. I couldn't, you know, I was afraid to touch it. I was afraid it would go off.
He had his gun with him, and he pulled a chair and put it in front of the door and said that I wasn't going anywhere.
He walked right up to me and held the gun right to my face with just inches between my eyes and said, "If you try to leave, I'm going to kill you."
He said, "If you leave, I'll blow your head off."
And did he say that in a normal kind of voice that you just told us, or did he say it?
No, he was screaming at me at that point.
Did he say this once or multiple times?
Multiple times.
And screaming?
And different sort of phraseology, like, "I'll blow your brains out," screaming very loudly, "You're not going anywhere, not unlocking the door," that kind of thing.
And that woman was Deborah Robitaille. She was the last of the prior bad acts women called to testify, in fact, in the prosecution's rebuttal case. And I thought the strongest of the bunch, which may be why they held her back, maybe it was just her accent, Lala Brooks, that convinced me. You know, that British accent gives you a little bit of legitimacy that other folks don't have. But you find this very compelling, plus your knowledge of Phil Spector. 2 jurors did not. I know you love this country and respect the system, so what's your reaction to that?
All I could say is that we should be thankful that we have common sense, you know, because to me, certain things just took common sense, and maybe some people have it and some people don't.
That's a very nice way of putting it. I hear what you're saying, though. I read through those lines.
Yeah.
You know, our system, though, allows each juror to have his or her own verdict. So those 10 who would have voted to convict, they have their verdict, and these 2 held out. And you know what I said on my show yesterday, Lala? That's a result, and the prosecutor now has the option of going back after Mr. Spector, which I would imagine you would expect them to.
Well, I would expect them to. I mean, Liz, like you say, 10? I mean, that's strong, you know, for 10 people to feel that he was guilty, and for the 2 not to. So it would be different if it was 5 and 5, then you could say, okay, you know, the evidence was really not good enough. But to have 10, it shows that the evidence was somewhat good.
Let me go back out to Beth Karras. Beth, there actually have been some who have said in the wake of all of this that with a stronger defense team, Phil Spector could beat this case, that it's not as strong a case for the prosecution as some other cases they might bring, and that because of missteps, we got to this hung jury. But very few people are saying anything about missteps on the other side of this case, on the prosecution side of the case. Can you see anything Alan Jackson might do differently next time around? Obviously, he's going to call back those 5 women, right?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if he'll attempt to get any other prior acts in. There are more than the 5 women who testified at the trial. It depends on what the next defense team does and if they're going to use suicide as their defense. If it's an accident theory, then Jackson may use some of Spector's statements after his arrest, not the day of his arrest, but statements he made in the months and years following, saying she shot herself, and that might be something to use against an accident defense. A lot of defense lawyers I spoke to were following the case, not the lawyers on the case, thought accident might be a better approach instead of suicide.
Yeah, of course, you got to get your defendant to go along with it, but they've got a year to work on that, and he's going to have new lawyers, apparently, at least some. Beth Karras, normally we let you scoot out of there without a formal goodbye because we're bouncing around from story to story, but I cannot let you go today without a special thank you and Hail Mary to Beth Karras out there in Los Angeles. Yeoman's duty, 5 months. I know you've covered a lot of long cases, Beth, but this has to be way up there at the top for you. Do you have a closing thought? What will you take away from this experience?
Well, you know, I had a great experience following this trial because I love the courtroom. I'm a trial lawyer at heart, and I love good lawyering. So this was really great to watch the lawyers on both sides. So that was a wonderful experience, but outside the courtroom, it was a terrific. I made a lot of good friends here. And I look forward to coming back. I look forward to the retrial.
Yeah, maybe you should just stay there because there's next week's proceeding and there's lots of good scuttlebutt to dig up, and it's beautiful in Los Angeles. Not a bad place to live. All right, Beth Karras, we actually look forward to having you back in New York, and thank you for your fine service on the Phil Spector trial. You'll see Beth again, don't worry, on courtside as we proceed in our day here. Jack and Ashley will have her back, but we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with more from Lala Brooks, plus our panel of legal experts right after this.
Tonight,
we've got to catch this guy.
Come on, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone!
There's no room for error.
Anything can happen.
There's no time to turn back.
I'm not leaving till I get inside that room!
And there's no other option.
Let's hit the house!
Than to get it done right.
I'm ready to take somebody down tonight.
One wrong move.
Put it to the metal, baby, come on!
Could blow it all.
Take it, Clyde, take it!
Bounty Girls Miami. An all-new episode premieres tonight at 10 on Court TV.
Want to win the battle against stains? Don't fight them in the laundry room. Fight them right on the spot with new OxyClean Spray Away. The only instant stain remover that can spray away stains anywhere stains can happen. Chlorine-free OxyClean uses the power of oxygen to gently lift stains out without rubbing and scrubbing. You can't avoid tough stains like coffee and ketchup, but with OxyClean Spray Away, it's like you never got them in the first place. New OxyClean Spray Away. Try it today.
My mom's making rich chocolate Ovaltine. Yeah!
My kids love Ovaltine's rich chocolate taste, and I love that there are vitamins and minerals not found in Nesquik powder.
We're back!
Who wants Ovaltine?
Me!
Let's make more.
More Ovaltine, please!
I'm Mark Goldston, Chairman and CEO of Net Zero. All internet providers take you to the same internet, so why pay more to get there? Net Zero is only $9.95 a month, and we give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-NET-ZERO or visit netzero.com.
The natural condition of our eyes is moist, but sometimes your eyes don't produce enough tears. If you use over-the-counter eye drops or artificial tears several times a day, ask your eye doctor about Restasis. Restasis helps increase your natural ability to produce tears, which may be reduced by inflammation due to chronic dry eye.
You can have chronic dry eye without knowing it, like me, and my doctor prescribed Restasis. It's the only eye drop that helps your eyes increase tear production with continued use.
Go to Restasis75.com or call 1-877-447-6403 to get your free information kit and a $20 rebate. Restasis should not be used by patients with active eye infections and has not been studied in patients with a history of herpes viral infections of the eye. The most common side effect is a temporary burning sensation.
1 drop twice a day with continued use helps me make more of my own tears. My tears. Thanks, Restasis.
Make an appointment with your eye doctor to see if Restasis is right for you.
Visa PayWave. Now there are more places and more ways to pay. Faster. Life takes Visa.
Homeowners, want to refinance and get cash? Countrywide has a great reason to do it now. A no-cost refi. It has no points, no credit reporting fee, no processing fee, no document fee, and no third-party fees. No title or escrow fees. Absolutely no closing costs. So you wind up with a lot more cash. Call now and ask for a no-cost refi. We're America's #1 home loan lender, and no one can do what Countrywide can. Call 1-800-641-0373.
Today, tune in for back-to-back episodes of Inside American Jail. At 9, it's a Forensic Files doubleheader. And at 10, catch a brand new episode of Bounty Girls Miami on Court TV.
I'm Jamie Floyd. This is The Best Defense. Well, we are in our coverage of the Phil Spector, not verdict, but it is a result of sorts. We have a mistrial in the Phil Spector case. The jury deadlocked 10-2, and Judge Larry Paul Fidler declared a mistrial late yesterday. Well, let's take a look at what some of those 12 individuals on that jury had to say after the judge declared the mistrial in the Spector case.
There was a lot of people who, for their own, maybe their convictions or you know, and the thing is, we did read the instructions, and some people had trouble with number 3, the special instruction. And I think after that was taken out, one of the jurors actually changed and came to, or went to the guilty side. And but then after that, it was just, we're stuck. You know, there was problems with the blood on the shooter's hand. There was not enough blood. I think a lot of the jurors expected to see more blood. As the defense put it, you know, the bazooka of blood. I sat and we did a demonstration. I think the first day I sat there, and one of the jurors actually put her gun to my mouth, and I could see that the only thing you could see was his jacket. I didn't see the sleeve. I didn't see anything. I saw, and if she had her hands up, I mean, it was conceivable in my mind that he would not have gotten blood on the sleeve. So, I mean, you know, I think, and something I said earlier inside with the judge, they asked us how did we find the experts. I found the prosecution experts very credible. I mean, they had no axe to grind. They see a lot of autopsies. They're the criminalists. I mean, I don't think they're paid to give their experts their opinions. On the other hand, you know, we see the defense experts who are asking me as a juror to suspend my belief in you know, physics and common sense. I mean, blood going across, missing her dress, flying, hitting him on the right and right here. I said, that just didn't make sense to me. You know, the first expert, I think it was Mr. DeMaio, or Dr. DeMaio, I mean, he looked to me like a deer caught in the headlights. Spitz, I mean, I couldn't understand what he was saying. And some people had trouble understanding what D'Souza said. Spitz was the one that I had trouble understanding. But, you know, then there was the last one, Dr. Bodden. You know, I've seen this guy on HBO. And, you know, then Linda Kenny gets sick. And she's gone. And then he's gone and she comes back. You know, I find that really suspect. I mean, I'm not an idiot, and the jurors are not idiots. We know maybe not everything, but I think for the most part, I was insulted by the defense and the stuff that they threw. And I think I've said enough.
And there you see juror number 9. His name is Ricardo Enriquez. He joined us earlier today. He voted to convict, said he felt that this was proven beyond a reasonable doubt from the start, but 2 jurors did not. And one of those 2 is standing there beside him at the podium. They seem to have great respect for one another, though a pretty fierce disagreement over the facts and the evidence in this case. We are joined by Lala Brooks here in New York. And Lala, I want to talk with you about the foyer on the night that Lana Clarkson died, because the only 2 people there were Phil Spector and Lana Clarkson. Now, to we criminal defense attorney types, that means, oh, well, you can't prove it. Yeah. No one's ever going to really know what went on in the foyer. But then you talk about common sense. And in your view, common sense dictates that someone was responsible for what happened. And it sounds like you don't think it was Lana. But do you think that maybe it was some sort of accident, and maybe a jury should be given that option in the jury room?
I think it was, like I said before, an accident waiting to happen. I mean, when you listen to Phil with guns, he was had a fetish for guns. Even when, as I said, when we were teenagers, I couldn't tell you whether it was loaded, but I know you used to sometimes be on the dashboard when we'd record, and sometimes he have a holster on. So he was fascinated with guns. So what I'm saying is that when you play with fire, eventually you'll get burned. So if it was an accident, only he knows. I'm not saying it was intentional, because I don't think he's that bad of a person that would just want to kill someone. I don't think that. But we all trip over things sometimes. You know, we all make mistakes. And accidents will happen. Even if we jump up and a glass of water spills over, it's an accident. You know, and we have to face that. It's an accident, and that's what happened. But and I don't think Lana Clarkson would go at all to Phil's house to kill herself.
You're not buying that? I
could never think. I wouldn't go to his house to have a glass of water.
Well, certainly not now. Listen, I always thought that the accidental suicide theory introduced by Bruce Cutler in openings, it just didn't quite play for me. But the 2 jurors who held out apparently put some credence in that. And, of course, prosecutors are the one who have to prove what happened. Yeah. They've got to prove that, in fact, Lana Clarkson did not kill herself. And, you know, it's not an affirmative defense like a self-defense where you have to prove that you were afraid and, therefore, defending yourself. Let me jump out to my 2 guests, because we do have 2 criminal defense attorneys with us, Paul Martin and Darren Kavanaugh. And I want to talk a little bit more. Let's put aside what the jury knew, what the jury didn't know, and let's just talk with a little common sense, as Lala Brooks says. No one will ever really know what happened in the foyer, but it really sounds to me, and I'm coming to you, Paul Martin, first, like a big old accident. Now, that means that Phil Spector would be, if he had his hand on the gun, responsible, but perhaps not guilty of murder, which would take us to involuntary manslaughter. Because voluntary is when you catch your wife in bed and you're just so angry that you kill her, you kill the man in the bed with her. And so that's not this fact pattern. But involuntary manslaughter, it seems to me, would have been an appropriate theory here. Well, you're a former prosecutor. What do you think?
Well, Jamie, you went straight with a wife in the bed. I'm not sure why we had to go there. But listen, this is a situation as a defense attorney where I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about that in this moment. As a defense attorney, your client tells you what the version of the facts are, and you're sort of stuck with that version. Now, you can explain to him, like, listen, we can go with the accident, and that's probably more plausible, but you're going to do some time. And when your client says, I'm not going to do 1 day in jail, I want to be acquitted, then you're sort of stuck with that theory.
That's right. From the defense point of view, I gotcha. And I hear that you don't want to go tell Alan Jackson how to try his case and what to charge. But in the end, Paul, as you know, the judge was thinking about sua sponte, as he said several times, on his own motion, thinking about giving this jury involuntary manslaughter. Well, do you think it could have made the difference for them?
Well, it probably could have made a difference, and the judge has a different agenda. The judge wants a conclusion to the case, so he's going to do what he has to do to make sure that the state of California comes to a conclusion. As a defense attorney, that is not your agenda, nor as a prosecutor. I think that accidental death is probably more plausible and makes more sense, common sense for everyone, except for the prosecution and the defense.
Yeah, right. And in fact, neither the prosecution nor the defense wanted that instruction. Let me come out to Darren Kavanaugh. Let's talk about it from an LA lawyer's point of view. What do you think? I do believe, despite these 2 jurors who say that they were entertaining the possibility of suicide, I do believe that if involuntary manslaughter had been on the table, the deliberations would have gone in a different direction early on, and you might not have had this stalemate. I'm not saying that's justice, but I think if the judge had given that instruction, he might have been dealing with some sort of reversible error, because remember, Darren, he was going to give it after deliberations had begun.
Right. Well, I think he did the right thing by checking himself and not giving that instruction after deliberations had begun. That would have been too many appellate issues for the defense, and the cardinal rule in conducting trials, especially if you're the prosecutor or the judge, is you don't want to have to do them twice. But certainly if you would have had the opportunity, or if the jury would have had the opportunity to come down on the side of an accident, it would have invited a compromise verdict. I think you're right, it would have taken the deliberations in an entirely different direction. And of course, the big difference here in California is that if he was convicted of murder, then he'd face an indeterminate sentence of minimum of 15 years to life plus another 10 for the gun, so 25 to life. And in California, whenever you have an indeterminate sentence, whether it's 5 to life, 10 to life, 20 to life, anything to life, you're in there for life.
Right.
And with an involuntary manslaughter, you get a determinate sentence. Whether you get low term, mid-term, or high term, you'll get a determinate sentence. So you'll have a release date. So on the one hand, tactically, it might make sense, if you believe your case is a weak one, to ask for that manslaughter instruction so that you can know, so that you can invite that compromise verdict and know that you'll have a release date even if you're convicted. I think the real problem, the fundamental underlying problem, is that you've got Phil Spector running the show here.
Well, as Paul Martin
Phil,
suggests,
who's a non-lawyer
your client ultimately makes the decision about how you're going to proceed.
Well, yes, that's true. And in addition to the client's right to have certain decision-making controls in a given case, what you have here with Phil Spector is somebody who has a long and rich history of being a bit of a control freak. And now, in the wake of what was a very successful mission from the defense standpoint, a hung jury in this case is a wonderful, wonderful outcome. And now we hear in the aftermath of that he's hiring or firing lawyers and putting in a new defense team. And that just gives me some pause and some concern, because really he should be celebrating his victory and thanking his defense team.
And I got to say, he probably could have held off on firing him, because I bet you some of them would have just quit. All right, let me...
And that may be true as well.
Let me jump back over here to Lala Brooks, because we're going to lose her. She's got work to do that does not involve the law, because she is an artist. But we're so pleased to have her, because she's known Phil Spector for so many years. Let me ask you for a final thought, Lala, because you've been with us on this case from the start. You've been on this program, all of the other programs. And, you know, it's sad, as you have said, but I also think we can learn some things from any case. What would be your closing? I mean, we're going to see again in a year. Yeah. Because we're going to do this case again. But for now, what do you think the lesson we've learned has been?
Money talks. That's what we've learned. Money talks. You know, so sad, but that's what happens sometimes, you know. I'm sure if she could have gotten... her lawyers was terrific. I'm sure they did a great job as they could do, you know, possibly do. But it's a sad thing when money's involved, you know, and power and control. It has an effect over our lives. And
so you agree with the comment that Phil is in control of things out there?
Sure he is. He still has my money. He's in control of everything. But I must say, they still play to do and run. They haven't stopped from them taking my money, and I haven't gotten a dime. So how much control is that?
Well, to do, run, run. Honey, I heard you sing it there at the Cutting Room, and I do want folks to know that on December 14th, Lala Brooks will again perform at the Cutting Room. There's so much demand, she can't even close one show before the next one's set up. December 14th, the Cutting Room here in New York. Lala, it has been such a treat, and I got to tell you, things happen for a reason. I now have this new friend, Lala Brooks, who is my inspiration in so many ways. I'm going to start doing some yoga. Honey, I need it. All right, Lala, thank you so much for being with us, for all your time throughout this case. We're going to take a very quick break. We still have Paul Martin, Darren Kavanaugh with us. We're going to talk lots more, a little bit more from the jury, and we'll take a look back at the experts as well. Stay with us in our continuing special coverage of the Phil Spector mistrial in the Phil Spector murder trial.
From the creator of Cops.
We have the product for a small party.
All right.
Inside American Jail.
You on fire, man.
An all-new episode.
Thanks for arresting me.
Premieres tonight at 8:30 on Court TV.
I spend 5% of my life on stage and 95% of it on the road, where anything can happen. And usually does.
Gotta rent something bigger.
Much better, right? It's your turn. Guess what? We're headlining. Do you want to come? I could fly you here. I could pay with points.
Call 1-800-THE-CARD for the American Express card, or go online.
I remember sneaking into clubs to see all my favorite bands. Maybe someday, somebody would be sneaking in to see me. Well, since I just got it with my card, it's no problem, right?
It's all taken care of.
I'm living my dream. I get to play for a living. How many people can say that?
Wherever you're going, are you getting the service and protection you need to get there? Are you a card member?
What's everybody doing?
Call 1-800-THE-CARD.
If you're injured in an accident, physical therapy can get you back into shape. But what about your finances? If you have a structured settlement or annuity, J.G. Wentworth can help you with cash to get back on track. J.G. Wentworth has helped tens of thousands of Americans to get cash for their settlements, to pay their bills, take care of medical expenses, or even to start a new business. It's your money. Use it when you need it. Call J.G. Wentworth today.
Call 866-393-4970.
Did Phil Spector murder actress Lana Clarkson? The jury in the music mogul's murder trial not able to answer that question. We're going to have more reaction to yesterday's mistrial when the best defense returns.
This country owes its very existence to the strength and courage of its working men and women. Unfortunately, many worked in areas contaminated by asbestos. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm speaking on behalf of the law offices of Peter Angelos. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with mesothelioma, a disease uniquely linked to asbestos exposure, call the law offices of Peter Angelos at 1-800-556-5522 for a no-charge consultation.
I'm Mark Goldston, Chairman and CEO of Net Zero. All internet providers take you to the same internet, so why pay more to get there? Net Zero is only $9.95 a month, and we give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-NET-ZERO or visit netzero.com.
Hey, there's that Bamzoo spot.
Oh, I love Bamzoo.com.
Bamzoo has many of the great products advertised on Turner Broadcasting.
It's easy to shop online. No run into stores or remembering phone numbers. Just log on.
You know, we could do a Bamzoo commercial.
You think?
Whoever said it was a man's world never met these women.
Come on, let's go, let's go!
Meet Miami's Bounty Girls.
Come out of the house with your hands up!
The Brains.
You're looking for more information, you lead.
The Brawn.
We're gonna have to taser this guy.
The Babe.
We'll bring him out with my big, sexy, luring waves.
And the Boss.
What the happened?
4 real women, 1 mean team.
I'm ready to take somebody down tonight.
Bounty Girls Miami, an all-new episode tonight at 10 on Court TV.
Is there one thing that weighed most heavily for different people? Each juror weighed all of the evidence, and I believe that it wasn't just one fact alone.
Each juror weighed all of the evidence. That's how the system is supposed to work. This jury deadlocked. That is a result, and a valid one in our system of law. Let's take you in for a little more of that press conference. Interestingly, you'll see 3 jurors there who were on different sides of the case. One juror, juror number 9, voted to convict. That gentleman you just saw, juror number 10, was the foreperson. And the third gentleman you might see at the podium, the camera moves around quite a bit, initially voted to acquit, but then came around to conviction. So let's take you back in a little more of the jury press conference in the Phil Spector case shortly after a mistrial was declared.
Did anyone believe Mr. Spector was actually standing far away on the other side of the room?
No.
Did anyone believe that he was standing far away, which is what the defense posited? No one believed that.
Did anyone believe Susan's statement?
Some did, and I found that surprising because some of the people who did, it appears to me that their language, English isn't their first language either.
Because when he said, I'm not sure my English isn't good, that bothered some jurors.
So did the jurors that were holdouts, did they actually believe that it was suicide, or was it just reasonable doubt? What was the feeling in the room?
They believed it could have been suicide, and there was enough reasonable doubt. See, the defense put enough out there, and it stuck. to leave a few with a doubt. I'm Bob.
Did all three of you then voted guilty?
I did.
What did you vote? Yes, I voted guilty.
You voted guilty?
Yeah.
What's your last name?
Foreman voted guilty? He's not coming.
How did you feel about Mr. Jackson when he said he felt like they had murdered Lana Clarkson twice? Did you have any hard feelings when you heard that story about her being suicidal and being sort of dragged through the mud?
I got angry at that because some juror at one point mentioned that a man will go as far as a woman will let him. And I found that so insulting. And I did resent the fact that they were trying to make Ms. Clarkson, and I challenged her. I said, what do you think, is she a whore? She deserved to die for that? I mean, we're not here as moral judges or anything. I mean, the facts that were presented, in my opinion, made sense to me. And as a result of that, I was able to, with a clear conscience, I can look at myself in the mirror tomorrow, get up and sleep, and know that I did the right thing,
Deliberations, did they get heated? Were they empty?
Yeah.
It was time.
It's very trying to go through that deliberation.
Especially towards the end, how did they...
As the beginning to the end, all the way through, it was very hard.
Why are your colleagues not here, the ones that voted for...
They said it's their option. Joe says you don't have to be here.
Do you think that Mr. Spector's wealth or celebrity benefited him in any way in this trial?
I think it bought him some experts.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, he got to buy some experts.
But at the same time, you got to think,
But I don't think him being a celebrity made it that mattered.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a scientist or anything, but certainly some of the things that they said were kind of out there. And I got to start reevaluating this whole thing of experts and being paid and what, so
There's that question about the celebrity factor, and as I said all along, not a big one for this jury. Let's bring our guests into the conversation one more time. Paul Martin, Darren Kavanaugh. I can't think of two better guests to conclude this 5-month-long journey with than the two of you, both criminal defense attorneys. And I'll get you each to give a concluding thought. First to you, Paul Martin. What can we learn from what happened here?
I tell you what, watching these jurors do these press conference, it makes me shudder. I represented the juror in the Martha Stewart case, and I got to tell you, they're just one question away from having some real issues. But with that being said, I think the case will be retried. I think the jurors will be more knowledgeable about who gets paid and who doesn't, because on both sides, experts get paid, and I think we'll have a conclusion to this case in the end.
Was the best defense presented, Paul Martin?
Was the correct defense presented? I think that's the question.
Maybe they'll get an answer to it before they've got to defend him again. Darren Kavanaugh, our friend out in Los Angeles, your closing thoughts?
Well, I think an effective defense was presented because today Phil Spector is breathing fresh air and he's not behind bars somewhere. So certainly it was an effective one. At the end of the day, it reinforces a closely held belief about jury selection, and that it only takes one strong soldier to be the fly in the ointment for the prosecution to hang that jury up. And so the real focus from the defense standpoint needs to be finding that strong soldier, finding somebody who's not only willing to be open-minded to what it is that the defense has to say, the defense theory of the case, but somebody who's willing to be unyielding in that view, somebody who's willing to dig their feet in and say, it doesn't matter that the other 11 of you are going in one particular direction. I'm strong enough in this belief that I'm going to stick to my guns. And the real trick the second time around is going to be in the jury selection.
Because now the prosecution knows what the defense is looking for, and I guess juror number 10, Darren, he was your guy.
No question about it. I think if you had a different jury makeup, you'd have a different result in this case.
How significant do you think it was that he was the foreperson? Does that ever really matter?
Oh, I think it's huge. The foreperson has the opportunity to control the shape and the feel of the discussions, to direct what the topics are, to perhaps cut off their fellow jurors. You know, obviously this is going to vary from case to case, but in general, from talking to the juries that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years, the foreperson oftentimes has a very significant role.
All right, and you know, Darren, we can't call it the effective defense. It's just not as good a show title, but I think you and Paul are both right here. In this case, he certainly had that, and with that, the best defense will rest for the day with a special thank you to Paul Martin and to Darren Kavanoki, our go-to guy in Los Angeles, for being with us today. Thanks, gentlemen, so much, and Banfield and Ford are going to have lots more, so fear not. They will continue our coverage of the Phil Spector case, but first, I get the last word. The result in Spector has been widely misreported. The New York Times, in fact, reads today in its headline, "Another celebrity avoids conviction in California." Well, that's not really what happened here. First of all, as anyone who really followed the case, as we do on Court TV day to day, knows, Phil Spector is not a celebrity. He doesn't have the kind of household name that Michael Jackson or O.J. Simpson had when they got acquittals in their cases. What Spector does have in common with these other celebrities is cash. Cold, hard money helps Spector more than any celebrity factor. Every time one of his songs is played, you heard Lala say it, Spector makes more of it, and he brought it to bear in that courtroom. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the state spent its dollars, and lots of them, to try the case against him, too. Why shouldn't Spector be able to challenge them dollar for dollar? More important than what it says about this trial is what the financial factor says about the rest of the system. Most defendants don't have enough money to hire one lawyer, let alone 6. What happens to them when they go up against the power and wealth of the state? Well, they're convicted, of course, sometimes even though they're not guilty. And that is the last word on Spector.
Star Jones is now on Court